The grand hall of Velura was shining with golden lights. Tall crystal pillars stood like silent guards, reflecting the glow of alien lanterns that floated in the air. Soft music played from strange instruments that looked like shells and glass tubes. Captain Ryan stepped inside, feeling hundreds of alien eyes on him. He was the only human in the room. The Valerans were tall and graceful, their skin shimmering in shades of silver and blue. They wore long flowing robes with symbols that glowed faintly like living light. Ryan had trained for months to meet them, to represent Earth in the first human Valeran diplomatic gathering. This dinner was meant to be peaceful, a chance to make friends across the stars. At the far end of the hall, a long table was set with dishes that looked like art. Some plates held flowers that moved slightly, as if breathing. Others had glowing fruits and steaming bowls of liquid that smelled both sweet and sharp. The guests were lining up to take their seats. Ryan noticed a young alien woman standing near him. Her name was Lyraya, a diplomat's daughter, with bright silver eyes and long strands of hair that shone like moonlight. The moment came when they both reached the narrow entrance to the dining area. Without thinking, Ryan smiled politely and stepped aside. He raised his hand slightly and said, "Please, you first." It was a habit, something he had done his whole life back on Earth. But as soon as he said it, Lyraya froze. Her silver eyes widened, and her expression turned from calm to sharp. The music in the hall seemed to fade as if the air itself was holding its breath. She tilted her head and spoke in a clear voice that carried across the room. "Why do females go first, human?" The words struck like a sudden alarm. Conversation stopped, and every head turned toward them. Even the floating lanterns seemed to hover lower, casting strange shadows on the walls. Ryan felt a cold weight in his stomach. He had no idea why such a simple gesture had caused this reaction. He opened his mouth to explain, but Lyraya's gaze was locked on him like a challenge. The alien guards at the far side of the hall shifted slightly, their hands resting near their strange crystal weapons. The elder diplomats exchanged glances. Whispering quietly, the atmosphere had changed in seconds on Earth. Letting a woman go first was polite, a small sign of respect. But here, on this alien world, Ryan realized that maybe his gesture meant something very different. He remembered the strict instructions given before the mission. Never assume customs are the same. And yet, here he was, standing in the center of a silent hall, with every eye demanding an answer. It's a human custom," Ryan said slowly, his voice calm but his mind racing. "It means respect, giving someone the place of honor." But Lyraya's eyes narrowed. "To send a person ahead is to send them into danger," she said, her voice firm. "In our history, criminals walked first, soldiers walked first, those who were less valued walked first." The hall seemed to grow colder. Ryan's thoughts spun. Had he just insulted her in front of everyone? Had he unknowingly challenged her status or honor? He could feel the tension pressing on his chest. One wrong word, and the fragile peace could shatter. Lyraya took one slow step closer, her silver eyes glowing brighter under the lantern light. "Is this what humans think of females? That we should face danger first?" she asked, her tone sharp but controlled. The guests around them leaned in slightly, waiting for the human's answer. Ryan knew he could not make this about himself. He had to show her, and everyone watching, that his intention had been good. He straightened his posture, kept his voice steady, and said, "On my world, it means the opposite. It means we care. It means we place your comfort and safety before ours." There was a pause, long and heavy. Lyraya studied his face, as if trying to see if he was lying. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Finally, she said, "Then you will explain this to me, human, and you will explain it now." Before Ryan could answer, she turned and gestured for him to follow her. The crowd parted silently as they walked past. The music did not start again. Whispers followed them like shadows. Ryan could feel the weight of every glance. He knew this was not just a misunderstanding. This was the beginning of a cultural test. one he could not afford to fail, as the tall doors closed behind them, sealing them in a smaller, dimly lit chamber. Ryan's heart was still beating fast. He had come to make peace, to build trust. But now, he had to answer a question that could decide the fate of Earth's first contact. And somewhere deep inside, he realized this was only the first challenge. Asterisk. The private chamber was quiet, lit only by a few soft blue crystals hanging from the ceiling. The walls were curved, carved with flowing patterns that seemed to move. Slightly in the dim light, Ryan stood near the center, his hands loosely at his sides, trying to appear calm. Across from him, Lyraya paced slowly, her silver robe swaying as she moved. Her glowing eyes never left him. "You must understand." "Human," she began, her voice steady but edged with something sharp. "On Velora, the one who walks first is the one we send into danger. It is a signal, an order, a test. We give that place to criminals, warriors, or those we wish to challenge." Ryan took a slow breath. He had guessed as much in the hall, but hearing it directly from her made the situation feel heavier. "I didn't know," he said carefully. "On Earth, it means we respect you. It means we let you pass first as a way to honor you." Lyraya tilted her head slightly, her glowing hair catching the crystal light. "To honor someone by placing them in danger makes no sense," she said. Her tone was not mocking, but it was full of disbelief. "It would mean you are willing to lose them first." Ryan shook his head. "It's the opposite for us. When we let someone go first, it is because we trust the way ahead is safe. We want them to have the place of comfort. It is a sign of care." Lyraya stopped pacing, standing directly in front of him now, her eyes narrowed, studying him as if weighing his words like precious metal. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "this is one of those strange ways in which our worlds are different." She stepped back, folding her arms. "Do you know what it means here when someone walks behind another?" she asked. Ryan shook his head. Lyraya's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. "It means they are the shield. They will protect the one who walks ahead. They are ready to face any danger that comes from behind. To walk behind is to promise your life for theirs." Ryan felt a flicker of understanding. "So when I stepped aside for you, in your eyes, I wasn't protecting you," he said. Lyraya nodded. "You were sending me into danger. You were saying my life was less important." Weight of her words settled in the air between them. Ryan realized just how dangerous even a small misunderstanding could be here, and yet there was something else in Lyraya's voice, something softer beneath the steel. Perhaps curiosity, perhaps the first hint of wanting to understand. "Then teach me," Ryan said. "Show me how your people show respect, and I'll show you ours." Lyraya's eyes widened slightly at his offer. "You would walk our path?" she asked. "Yes," Ryan replied without hesitation. "Because if I can't understand your ways, there will be no trust between our worlds." For a moment, she said nothing. Then, with a small nod, she gestured for him to follow. They left the chamber through a side door that led into a long, quiet hallway. The air here was cooler, and the light from the crystals was dimmer. Strange murals covered the walls, showing scenes of alien warriors, great feasts, and glowing towers under foreign skies. "This is the path of honor," Lyraya explained as they walked. "When we walk with someone we respect, we walk at their side. Not ahead, not behind, side by side. So danger meets us both equally." Ryan found that simple, yet powerful. It spoke of equality, not dominance, not submission, just trust. They reached a small courtyard open to the night sky. Above, 2 moons hung in the deep, purple darkness, their light spilling across the smooth stone floor. Here, Lyraya stopped, turning to face him again. "Show me now," she said. "Show me your way of respect." Not with words, but with action, Ryan thought for a moment. He remembered something his grandmother had taught him back on Earth. A gesture old and simple. He bowed slightly, not deeply, just enough to lower himself in front of her. "On Earth," he said softly. "This means I lower myself to honor you. It means I see you as someone of worth." Laria's eyes flickered with surprise. No one on Velora bowed except in rare rituals of deep loyalty. For a long moment, she said, "Nothing." Then she took a single step forward. "Perhaps there is more to you, human, than I thought," she said quietly. The tension in her voice was softer now, but Ryan knew this was not over. Trust would take time. One wrong move could still destroy everything. "Tomorrow," Laria said, "you will meet the council. They will test you, and they will decide if your people are worthy of alliance." Ryan nodded. He could feel the weight of the task ahead. But somewhere deep inside, he also felt something else, a strange connection forming between him and Laria. Not friendship, not yet, but the start of something that could grow. As they walked back through the moonlit courtyard, they moved side by side, neither ahead nor behind. And Ryan knew, in that quiet moment, he had taken the first true step toward understanding her world. The next morning, the city of Velora woke under the pale light of its twin suns. The streets shimmered with the glow of energy lines that ran beneath the crystal pathways. Alien merchants opened their stalls, displaying goods that looked like living jewels, floating fabrics, and fragrant steaming orbs. Ryan followed Laria through the bustling avenues toward the great council hall. Every step he took was met with curious stares from the Velorans. Some looked at him with interest, others with suspicion. News of the "why do females go first" moment had spread across the city overnight. He could hear whispers in the alien language, and sometimes his translator earpiece caught fragments like danger gesture and earth custom. It seemed his first impression had left a mark, one that could either be healed or deepened. The council hall rose ahead like a mountain of glass and silver. Its spires twisted upward as if reaching for the sky, and massive doors made of glowing crystal slowly opened as they approached. Inside, the hall was vast, the air cool and heavy with the scent of some kind of incense. Rows of alien elders sat in a curved arrangement, their robes shimmering with patterns that shifted like water. Ryan could feel the weight of their gaze the moment he entered. "Captain Ryan of Earth," one elder announced, his voice deep and resonant. "You stand before the council to explain your actions and your people's ways. Velora does not take lightly the meaning of gestures, for gestures shape trust." Ryan glanced at Laria, who gave a slight nod, as if telling him to speak from his heart. He stepped forward, standing in the center of the hall. "In my world," he began, "we have a custom called ladies first. It means we give the place of honor to women. It is meant to show care and respect, not to place them in harm's way." A murmur passed through the council seats. One elder with sharp features leaned forward. "And yet, on Velora, that gesture means the opposite. Do you see the danger of your ignorance?" "I do," Ryan said, his voice steady. "And I understand that respect looks different here. That is why I want to learn your ways. If our worlds are to work together, we must both learn to walk side by side." The elders exchanged quiet words, their expressions unreadable. Finally, the lead elder spoke again. "There is a tradition to settle such differences, the truth walk. It is a journey through the maze of mirrors. Two must walk together, facing challenges and revealing truths to one another. Only then can understanding be earned." Ryan felt a small rush of adrenaline. He had read about the maze of mirrors during mission briefings. It was an ancient test filled with illusions, hidden dangers, and traps that tested courage and trust. Laria stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the elders. "I will walk with him," she said. Several elders looked surprised, but no one objected. Within the hour, Ryan and Laria stood at the entrance to the maze. Tall mirrored walls stretched high above them, reflecting 1,000 versions of themselves. The air inside was cool and faintly metallic. A soft hum came from somewhere deep within. As they stepped through the first archway, the mirrors shifted, showing not just reflections but strange vision scenes from each of their lives. At first, the path seemed simple. They walked side by side, the floor glowing faintly under their feet. But soon, a sharp turn led them into a room where the floor began to tilt and shift. From the mirrors, Alien creatures appeared, figures made of light, their faces changing rapidly. They're testing our fear. Lyraya said calmly, do not let the illusions touch you. Ryan moved quickly, keeping close to her. As one illusion reached toward him, he instinctively pushed Lyraya out of its path. She looked at him, startled. You protected me, she said quietly. On Earth, that is what we do when we care. Ryan replied without slowing his pace. They pressed on, reaching a narrow bridge suspended over what looked like an endless drop. The mirrors here showed each of them alone, walking without the other. It's a trick, Ryan said. They want us to think we don't need each other. Lyraya hesitated for a moment, then reached out and took his hand. The bridge steadied instantly, and together they crossed, in the final chamber. The walls showed scenes of both Earth and Velura cities. Battles, celebrations, losses, a voice echoed around them. Deep and ancient. To walk together, you must speak one truth you have never shared. Lyraya spoke first. When I was a child, I lost my brother in the maze of mirrors. He walked ahead of me. I always wondered if I could have saved him. Her voice was steady, but Ryan could see the weight in her eyes. Ryan took a breath. I once failed a mission that cost lives. I promised myself I would never again put someone in harm's way if I could prevent it. That is why I step aside. That is why I said, you first. The mirrors around them softened, their images fading into pure light. The exit appeared before them. They stepped out into the open air, side by side. The council awaited, their eyes fixed on the pair. Lyraya spoke first, her voice clear. The human walks not to send others into danger, but to shield them in his own way. Our worlds are different, but perhaps our hearts are not. A long silence followed. Then the lead elder inclined his head. Perhaps, he said slowly, there is hope for this alliance. Asterisk, asterisk. The council chamber was silent after the truth walk. Ryan and Lyraya stood side by side before the semicircle of elders. The lead elder's eyes, dark and deep as polished stone, scanned the human from head to toe. You have shown courage in the maze, he said slowly. But courage alone is not enough to bind two worlds together. Velura must know if your actions are as true as your words. For this, you will face the trial of perception. Ryan's shoulders tensed slightly. He had heard only vague mentions of this trial in mission files. Lyraya's expression turned serious, her silver eyes narrowing. The trial of perception, she explained quietly, is not about strength or speed. It is about how others see you and how you see them. The elders rose from their seats and began to move toward a set of tall golden doors at the back of the chamber. As they opened, a blinding white light spilled into the hall. Ryan and Lyraya followed, stepping into a vast arena surrounded by hundreds of Velurans. The crowds, voices filled the air like a restless sea. Many were here out of curiosity, others to judge. And some, Ryan suspected, were here hoping he would fail. In the center of the arena stood a strange structure. It looked like a spiral of glass panels, each one tall enough to block the view beyond. An elder stepped forward, holding a staff that pulsed with soft light. You will walk this spiral, human, he declared. Along the way, you will meet situations where your choice will be seen and judged by all. You must act without knowing who watches. At the end, the council will decide if what they saw is worthy of trust. Ryan exchanged a quick glance with Lyraya. She gave a small nod but did not follow. This was his trial alone. Taking a deep breath, he stepped inside the spiral. The light above dimmed, replaced by a soft golden glow that made the glass walls shimmer. The first turn led him into a small open space. In the center, a Veluran elder sat on the ground, appearing weak and injured. Two paths opened behind her, one wide and brightly lit, the other narrow and shadowed. Ryan knelt beside her without hesitation, offering his arm. "Can you walk?" he asked. She looked at him silently, then took his arm. He chose the narrow, shadowed path, helping her along. As they walked, Ryan felt unseen eyes on him, judging his every move. When the woman disappeared behind a glass wall, he turned into. The next space here, a small alien child stood crying, holding a broken toy that sparked faintly with light. The child's eyes met his, full of fear. Ryan knelt again. Fixing the toy with careful hands, it began to glow steadily, and the child smiled. Without a word, the child stepped aside to let him pass. The third chamber was different. A low rumble shook the floor, and a section of the wall cracked open, revealing 2 alien guards. Between them, a prisoner stood in chains, his expression defiant. One guard spoke. "This one is dangerous. Escort him to the next gate. Do not free him, no matter what he says." Ryan walked beside the prisoner. Halfway through, the prisoner stumbled, his chains catching on a jagged piece of glass. "Help me, human," he whispered. Ryan hesitated. He didn't know the prisoner's crime, but he also saw the guards were far behind. He chose to lift the chains enough to free them from the glass. The prisoner gave him a strange look before being pulled away at the next turn. Finally, the spiral opened into a wide circular space at the center. The walls here were completely transparent. Ryan could see the entire crowd watching, silent and expectant. The elders stood together on a raised platform. The lead elder's voice carried through the arena. "Your actions have been seen, your choices recorded. Do you believe? You acted with truth, human." Ryan straightened, his voice firm. "I acted as I would have on Earth, helping those in need, even when I did not know if it would be seen. If that is wrong here, then I have failed, but I will not pretend to be something I am not." There was a long pause. The crowd whispered among themselves, their voices a mix of curiosity and surprise. The prisoner from earlier stepped forward from the shadows, no longer in chains. He bowed slightly to the elders, then turned to Ryan. "This human freed me when I was trapped. He did not know I was part of this trial. He showed trust without proof." Lyraya appeared beside the elders, her eyes fixed on Ryan. "He has shown me that sometimes walking first, or stepping aside, matters less than the heart behind the action," she said clearly. The lead elder raised his staff, the soft light pulsing once. "Then the council sees truth in this human," he declared. "May he continue his walk among us. For trust is not yet complete, but it has begun." The crowd's murmur turned into a low, approving hum. Ryan allowed himself a slow breath. The trial of perception was over, but he knew more challenges lay ahead. As he walked out of the arena, Lyraya joined him. Her voice was softer now. "You have made them see you differently. But the next trial will not just test your heart. It will test your courage." Ryan gave a faint smile. "Then I'll be ready," he said, and together they walked into the waiting light. The following morning, the city was covered in a soft silver mist. From the balcony of his guest chamber, Ryan could see the towers of Valera fading into the fog like ghostly shapes. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of the glowing flowers that grew along the walkways, but even the beauty of the city could not hide the weight in his chest. He knew today's challenge would be harder than anything before. Lyraya arrived without her usual calm smile. Her expression was serious, her eyes sharper than usual. "The council has decided your next trial," she said quietly. "It will not be in a hall or maze. It will be in the field of glass bridges." Ryan frowned slightly. He had read about this place. It was a series of crystal bridges stretched over deep, endless chasms. Some were stable, others were old and ready to break. The winds there were strong enough to pull a person into the abyss if they made a wrong step. "What's the task?" Ryan asked. Lyraya hesitated, then said, "You will be placed in a scenario where a choice must be made, one that will show the council your true nature. I cannot tell you more. You must face it without knowing." They traveled by a hovering platform across the city and into the wild mountains beyond. The mist thinned as they rose higher, revealing sharp peaks and glowing rivers far below. Finally, they reached the field of glass bridges. The bridges shimmered like frozen rainbows, stretching between cliffs under a vast open sky. Ryan could feel the wind tugging at his clothes. The drop below seemed endless. At the far edge, the council waited. along with a group of alien women dressed in ceremonial robes. Their robes glowed faintly, marking them as high-ranking members of Valoran society. An elder stepped forward, his voice steady. "Human, you will guide these women across to the safety of the other side. The path is dangerous, but you must choose the order in which they cross. You may also choose whether you walk first, last, or in the middle." Ryan's eyes narrowed slightly. This was a test. He could see it in the way the council watched him. Every choice he made would be judged. Lyraya stood to the side, silent, her gaze fixed on him. He looked at the women. Then at the first bridge, a long narrow span of crystal that groaned softly in the wind. Without hesitation, Ryan stepped forward. "I'll go first," he said. Some of the elders raised their brows. Ryan continued, "If I go first, I can test the bridge and make sure it's safe before they cross. If it breaks, I fall, not them." The lead elder gave a short nod, and the trial began. Ryan stepped onto the bridge, the crystal vibrating under his boots. The wind roared in his ears, but he kept his balance, moving slowly. Halfway across, he heard the sharp sound of cracking. He froze. Looking down, one of the panels beneath his foot had split. Carefully, he shifted his weight and moved forward. When he reached the other side, he turned and guided the first woman across, telling her exactly where to step. One by one, they crossed, Ryan giving instructions each time. But as the fourth woman stepped onto the bridge, a sudden gust of wind slammed against them. The panel under her foot shattered, and she stumbled. Ryan ran back onto the bridge without thinking, grabbing her arm just as she slipped. The wind howled, pulling at them both. He held on with all his strength, pulling her back to the safe section. When she reached the other side, trembling but safe, Ryan's legs shook from the strain, but there were still 2 more women to guide. He crossed again and again, each time walking in front to take the risk himself. Finally, when the last woman reached safety, the council signaled for him to return. As Ryan stepped onto the final bridge alone, a deep rumble shook the span. The crystal cracked in multiple places at once. The bridge began to fall apart beneath him. He ran, the panels shattering behind his heels. With one last leap, he landed on solid ground as the entire section collapsed into the abyss. The crowd that had gathered on the cliffs let out a collective breath. Ryan stood straight, trying to slow his heartbeat. The lead elder spoke, his voice carrying over the wind. "You chose to walk first, knowing it was dangerous. You risked your life. For those you were tasked to guide, tell us, human, why?" Ryan's voice was calm, though his body still trembled from the adrenaline. "Because where I come from, we protect those who cannot protect themselves. If there's danger, I face it before asking someone else to. That's what respect means." To me, there was silence, broken only by the sound of the wind. Then Lyraya stepped forward, her silver hair whipping in the breeze. "On Velora, the one who walks first is sent into danger," she said. "Today, you chose that place willingly. Not as an insult, but as a promise. The council has seen it with their own eyes." The lead elder lifted his staff. "This trial is complete," he said. "But there is still one more test ahead, one that will decide if you leave here as a guest or as an ally." Ryan nodded. Whatever came next, he was ready, and as he followed Lyraya back toward the city, the wind at his back felt less like a threat and more like a push toward the future. The journey back to Velora was quiet. Ryan stood at the front of the hover platform, watching the crystal mountains fade into the mist. The wind brushed against his face, carrying the distant sound of the glowing rivers far below. Behind him, Lyraya sat in silence, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Something in her expression told Ryan that today's trial had changed more than just how the council saw him. When they arrived at the city, the streets were alive with movement. Valoran citizens paused to watch him pass, their eyes no longer filled with suspicion. Some even gave slight nods, a gesture of quiet acknowledgement. Ryan noticed, but he didn't let it swell into pride. He knew one wrong move could undo it all. As they walked through the winding glass corridors of the diplomatic wing, Lariah finally spoke. "You could have stayed safe yesterday," she said, her tone softer than before. "You could have chosen to walk behind, let someone else take the risk, but you didn't." Ryan glanced at her. "I told you before, that's not how I was raised. If there's danger, I face it before the people I'm protecting." Lariah tilted her head slightly. "That is not the way of my people, but I think I am beginning to understand why it is yours." They entered a small courtyard, its floor made of smooth stone that reflected the light of the two moons above. In the center stood a fountain shaped like twisting vines, the water glowing with a soft golden hue. Lariah stopped here, looking at him with a strange mix of curiosity and something warmer. "There is one more test ahead," she said. "It will not be about danger. It will be about trust, and trust is harder to prove than courage." Ryan leaned lightly on the edge of the fountain. "What kind of test?" he asked, but Lariah shook her head. "If I tell you, it will not be real." For a moment, they simply stood there, the sound of the water filling the silence. Ryan noticed the way the moonlight caught the silver threads in her hair. She noticed the way his posture carried both weariness and resolve. It was the first time since they met that they weren't speaking as a human and an alien, but simply as two people. Lariah broke the moment with a quiet question. "Do humans trust easily?" Ryan thought for a moment before answering. "Some do, some don't. For me, I think trust is something you earn, piece by piece, but once I give it, I mean it." Lariah nodded slowly. "In Valora, trust is not given. It is exchanged like a binding vow. To trust someone is to share something you cannot take back." She reached into the folds of her robe and pulled out a small crystal disc. It pulsed faintly in her palm, its light shifting like ripples in water. "This is a memory stone," she explained. "It holds one moment of a person's life. Once placed inside, it cannot be changed. If I give it to you, I give you a part of me forever." Ryan looked at the stone, feeling the weight of the gesture. "What's inside it?" he asked. Lariah hesitated before answering. "A memory of my brother. The last time I saw him alive, it is the most precious thing I own." Ryan's first instinct was to tell her to keep it, but he could see this wasn't just a gift. It was a test. If he accepted it, he would be carrying something sacred. If he refused, it might mean he didn't trust her in return. "I'll take it," he said finally, "but only if I can give you something in return." Lariah tilted her head. Curious. Ryan reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and pulled out a small, worn pendant, a simple piece of metal shaped like a star. "My father gave me this before my first mission," he said. "He told me it would remind me who I am. It's the only thing I have that's been with me through everything." He placed the pendant in her hand. She closed her fingers around it, her expression unreadable for a long moment. Then she placed the memory stone in his palm. The crystal felt warm, almost alive. In that moment, without ceremony, they had exchanged more than objects. They had exchanged trust. "You carry part of me now," Lariah said softly, "and I carry part of you. If you betray it, the wound will not heal." "I won't," Ryan replied without hesitation. They stood there for a while, the air between them heavier but also warmer. Some invisible wall that had stood between them since their first meeting was gone. When they left the courtyard, they walked not just side by side, but in sync. Their steps matched without either of them trying. As they reached the great hall, Lariah glanced at him with a faint smile. "Tomorrow is the final test. If you succeed, you will leave Valera not as a visitor, but as a friend of my people. And if I fail?" Ryan asked. Her smile faded slightly. "Then all you've done here will be forgotten, and Earth will be kept at a distance for a long time." Ryan gave a small nod. "Then I guess I can't fail," he said. The two moons hung above them as they parted for the night, both knowing that tomorrow would decide more than just their futures. It would decide the future of two worlds, ****. The morning of the final test came with a sky painted in deep gold and pale silver. The twin suns rose slowly, their lights spilling over the city's crystal towers. Ryan stood at the balcony of his chamber, holding the small memory stone Lyria had given him. Its faint glow pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. He knew the meaning of this test went beyond himself. It was about Earth's place in this new world. When Lyria arrived, she was dressed differently. Her robe was a deep shade of blue, marked with thin lines of silver that traced the pattern of Velora's twin moons. Her eyes held the same calm strength as before, but there was something softer. "There now, today," she said. "The Council will not test your courage or strength. They will test your understanding, and understanding can be harder than bravery." They walked together through the streets. Past the morning markets where merchants arranged floating fruits and shimmering fabrics. The people watched him, some curious, some already nodding in quiet approval. Word of his past trials had spread far, but the final test remained a mystery. To everyone but the Council, the great hall was filled when they arrived. The curved seats of the Council were occupied by elders in ceremonial robes. The crowd gathered along the edges, whispering among themselves. In the center of the hall stood a single long path of smooth white stone, leading to a tall gate of woven crystal vines. Beside the path stood two Valoran guards holding staffs tipped with glowing shards. The lead elder rose, his deep voice echoing through the hall. "Captain Ryan of Earth, you have shown courage in danger. You have walked beside our people and earned moments of trust. But trust between worlds is more than shared trials. It is shared meaning. Today, you must choose the way you walk. Your choice will decide how Velora sees you from this day forward." Ryan's brow furrowed slightly. "What do you mean, choose the way I walk?" The elder gestured to the path. "You may walk ahead of Lyria, you may walk behind her, or you may walk at her side. Each choice has a meaning in our culture, and each will tell us what you have learned." The hall grew quiet, the air heavy. With expectation, Ryan turned to look at Lyria. Her expression gave nothing away, but her silver eyes held a trace of something: hope, maybe even trust. He remembered their first meeting, the shock in her voice when she had asked, "Why do females go first, human?" He remembered the maze of mirrors, the field of glass bridges, and the night in the courtyard when they had exchanged their most precious keepsakes. Each trial had taught him more about her world and more about her. Ryan stepped toward the path, his boots echoing softly against the smooth stone. The crowd watched closely, their eyes fixed on his every movement. When Lyria joined him, he paused. He took one step to match her position, placing himself exactly at her side, not ahead, not behind, equal. A ripple went through the crowd, quiet murmurs spreading like wind through leaves. Lyria glanced at him, her lips curving in the faintest of smiles. The lead elder's voice was calm, but Ryan thought he heard a hint of approval. "You have chosen the walk of equals," the elder said. "It means you share the burden and the honor. It means you will face danger together. It is the walk of alliance." Ryan and Lyria began moving forward, their steps perfectly in sync. As they approached the crystal gate, it began to glow softly. The vines unwove themselves, opening the way when they stepped through. The light bathed them both, casting long shadows on the polished floor. On the other side, the lead elder met them. "In our history, few have been given the right to walk this path beside one of our own," he said. "You have shown respect, not just in words, but in the way you stand, the way you act. Earth will be welcomed as a friend to Velora." The crowd's hum rose into a soft, resonant tone, a Valoran sign of approval. Ryan felt the weight in his chest ease, replaced by something warmer. He turned to Lyria. "Thank you," he said quietly, "not just for trusting me, but for teaching me." Lyria's silver eyes met his. "And thank you for listening. Many come to new worlds only to change them. You came willing to be changed yourself." As they stood there, the hall still glowing from the open gate, Ryan felt something shift. This wasn't just the end of his trials, it was the beginning of something larger. He had not just passed a test. He had built a bridge between two worlds, and like all true bridges, it would stand only if both sides cared for it. When the ceremony ended, the council dismissed the crowd, but before leaving, Lariah did something unexpected. She stepped ahead of him, just one pace, then turned and gave a small deliberate gesture with her hand. Ryan froze. He knew this gesture now. On Valora. It meant, I trust you to follow me into whatever comes next. A smile touched his face. He stepped forward, matching her stride, and together they left the great hall, walking side by side into a future where human and Valoran walked the same path, neither ahead, neither behind, but as equals under the twin suns, ***.